you're going to have a bigger piece of a smaller pie. VCs get strong powers to influence the direction of the company, so there are going to be strings attached going forward. And as I said, VCs need to engineer an exit in 5 to 7 years typically, so they're going to have you on a clock. In the life cycle of many clean tech companies does not naturally align very well with the 5 to 7 year investment horizon, as many entrepreneurs and VCs are seeing. Last slide, these are actually some thoughts from one of my clients, Rob Day at Black Coral Capital, which is a very interesting clean tech investment fund. And he's a real leading light in the clean tech VC community, and a very active blogger. And I pirated these points from his blog. But so how do you attract clean tech funding, VC funding in 2011? He said, be prepared to burn a lot of shoe leather and take a lot of meetings. Know who you're meeting with. Qualify, pre-qualify. You spend your time talking to VCs that you think might really be interested in what you're doing. Black Coral Capital is very big on meeting with the team. They put their VC teams or their company executive teams through a kind of team screening process to make sure that they have a really experienced, cohesive, dynamic, energetic, knowledgeable team. Show them how they can make a home run. Don't be afraid, he says, of focusing early on the near-term revenue opportunities. You want to paint a picture for lots of market space that you're going to go conquer, but many VCs want to see near-term revenue potential. Be flexible about the amount of money you take. And guess what? The amount of money they might want to give you is more than you went looking for. There's fewer VC dollars out there right now, but since the bubble burst, they're consolidated in fewer and fewer VC firms, who in general have not hired a lot more partners. So each one of those partners can only manage so many investments, and over the life cycle of any given company, they tend to want to pump a lot of capital into those companies. Consider your audience. Rob says, be polarizing. He says, shake them up. Really, be passionate, and be prepared. And that is all I have to say.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I want to thank Richard and Jeff. I think the presentations were phenomenal. I learned quite a lot from those presentations, and I've been playing this game for quite a while. I'd now like to start our discussion. And actually, one more round of applause, please, for our presenters. So I now like to get to the topic of our panel discussion. Now it's really an introduction for photovoltaics. How do I identify investors and funding sources? So as you all know, developing technologies that take advantage of the clean, abundant energy of the sun is important to reducing greenhouse gases and help stimulate the economy. Photovoltaic cells convert sunlight directly into electricity and are made of semiconductors such as crystalline silicon or thin films, various thin film materials. Photovoltaics can provide tiny amounts of power for watches, large amounts for the electric grid, and everything in between. Listen in as our panel of experts explains what's up and coming in this industry and what venture capitalists and other investors are looking for in 2011. Today's Photovoltaics Forum is sponsored by Holland & Knight, LLP. Holland & Knight provides legal clarity to complex issues, as we've heard, including structuring funding and identifying investors. So thank you to Holland & Knight for your support. We very much appreciate it here at the College of Nanoscale Science and Engineering. What we'd like to do now, we're going to hear from 6 panelists. Each panelist will present just a few slides to kind of give their context in their perspective in a variety of different ways. And then we're going to ask the panel to sit up front. We'll open it up to questions from the audience. and hopefully we'll have a very dynamic and interesting discussion. Our first panelist that will come up to present, and let me see if I can, is Jeff Peterson. Jeff and I have worked together for many years. He is program manager at NYSERDA, and at NYSERDA, activities focus on public-private initiatives to overcome market barriers and accelerate the introduction of clean, renewable energy technologies into the marketplace, and targeted research to address critical technical barriers to the adoption of renewable technologies. Mr. Peterson is active in national and international activities involving the promotion of renewable energy. He received a BS and MS from the University of Massachusetts and an MS in Industrial Administration from Union College. Please welcome Jeff Peterson.
So I only have a few minutes to speak, so I will be brief. I want to try to make points in three different areas. One is to provide some brief information on the type of funding that NYSERDA offers companies, maybe companies like yours, to challenge companies in the solar and PV space to step back and really consider the value proposition in solar and what they're bringing to the table, and also to make a recommendation as sometimes the best process to take is to find partnerships. So I will again be quick in this. I wanted to kind of offer a couple of different slides on that value proposition question, and that has to do with the decreasing price in solar energy in the installed cost. This graph is a snapshot of the PV systems that NYSERDA has been involved with since 2003. These tend to be small systems, and you can see how the price, the installed cost per kW has been coming down over time. So we're starting to get to the point where cost, it may not be as much of an issue from the customer side in that case. Another point to make along those lines, and this is from a table that's out of a Lawrence Berkeley National Lab study. They do reports annually called Tracking the Sun, and this is showing that the installed cost of PV has been coming down again as size goes up. So you're having the installed costs go down even on small systems, and the cost for larger systems is also going down in that case too. But I say that to then get to a value question, and I apologize for going fast over this, in that we're doing some work with Con Ed and some other utilities to try to understand the value of PV on their system. And this is a slide, and some people may have seen this type of presentation in the past, where you see the impact of PV on peak load reduction in Con Ed. In the New York City area, you have a very high correlation between when the sun is shining and peak load on the system. So you see this is what value PV can provide to the utility system. So that's a potential in this case, but the challenge is how you realize that value. So it may be even different than price per kWh in this case. What do we need to do in the PV system, or how we manage that system to help utility realize its value? And there's been a lot of work being done on this campus, as a matter of fact, to look at the impact of cloud movement over PV arrays, how you take that system offline for brief periods of time. And the concern from utility now is not that whether or not PV is a good thing, but how do I operate my system when I have large amounts of PV on my system? So then I guess, and looking at that value proposition is what do I provide to the marketplace when the large customers now starting to think about the role of PV, and they're asking operation type questions, not what is the cost of an installation. Cost is coming down, but we also have to look at that value proposition question. And this is another graphic that's looking at the ability to forecast output in the very short term from PV systems. Again, so I am a utility, or I am a large owner of large arrays for PV, if I can forecast output into some market and have some level of certainty, that can increase value in this case. I mean, the other side, for the audience is that the ability to do this forecasting, as represented in this graphic, is something developed in this campus. So the opportunity to develop products in businesses around solar energy is not only in how do I make a cell and how do I make power electronics, it could be what do I do with that information, or can I forecast into the future. So then quickly to look at partnerships. We're looking at the value of PV to a utility system. Utility could be a large partner. As you start to look at that, NYSERDA has been very involved over the last year or so to try to establish a New York Smart Grid Consortium. This is a vehicle to introduce solar technology, among other things, into the utility marketplace. So it could be you get involved with groups like the consortium where your interest is finding those partners that can help take your solar product or your solar technology and bring it to the market. Another big one is New York BEST. This is a battery energy storage and technology consortium. Again, if you're trying to deliver value to the utility market, you may have to also provide a connection with a very short-term load management or short-term storage. And getting involved with a consortium like New York BEST, and this is something else NYSERDA supported, maybe one vehicle they start to move in. Find the companies that are looking at storage where a solar system, a PV system, may be a good adjunct to what they're trying to bring to the table. And briefly on what NYSERDA does today, you heard others mention about NYSERDA being a funding organization, and that's what we do. We fund product development, and we certainly funded a number of projects developing solar technologies over the years. We've been funding business development and business innovation, and that is an increasing focus at NYSERDA. And as Mike said, we're finding financial support to this incubator, iCLEAN. And one of the goals of the incubators, and this is, we have one here, we have one in SUNY Buffalo, one at RIT, one in Syracuse, New York City, and Stony Brook, so we have 6 incubators across the state, is to help companies find capital. Right, so our philosophy there is kind of build an infrastructure to help entrepreneurial early stage companies find capital. We also have a fairly significant deployment program in PV where we're buying down the cost of getting PV onto a customer roof. And that is primarily through the Renewable Portfolio Standard. And that is a rebate type of program, $1 per kilowatt installed program. So NYSERDA offers support for developing technology, developing products. And this could be from prototyping, feasibility engineering analysis, on up to larger scale demonstrations. We offer core support to support business innovation, and also we have a fairly significant deployment program in the PV space and the other renewable energy space in that end. So I encourage you to think about what the value proposition is for your PV system, where can you provide support into the market, and also to look for partners, because there are big companies, big organizations out there trying to address grid issues and storage issues where PV is an integral part of that solution. Thank you.